The pieces on the board are being moved into position for next week's finale. G'day, welcome to the Nerdy Dad channel and my review and discussion on the 11th and penultimate episode of Andor, Daughter of Ferrix. This episode was directed by Benjamin Caron, who also directed the 7th episode, Announcement. And like Announcement, this episode does a lot of setting up the board, but that doesn't mean it's boring, not by any stretch. And while it doesn't have that fist-pumping, one way out moment like last week, Andor's writing staff are the masters of tension and anticipation. And that trend continues with Daughter of Ferrix. Okay, we're heading into spoiler territory in 3, 2, 1. And despite having died off screen between episodes, the spirit of Marva Andor, a Daughter of Ferrix, hangs heavy over the episode. But at the start of the episode, Andor isn't aware of that yet. The episode picks up back on Nakina 5, with Cassian and Melshi avoiding Imperial detection in the aftermath of their escape. Talk about brutal. The hands and feet look like they're not in any kind of good condition. After 3 weeks based in the prison factory that only held human prisoners, Cassian and Melshi come across a couple of aliens. Look, last week I wondered how in that galaxy far, far away they were going to get off the planet. And Melshi, if not both of the former prisoners, believed that the aliens' quad jumper was their ticket out of there. They were right, but just not in the way that they thought. After our protagonists get trapped in some really disgusting netting, the Narkinians discuss turning them over to the Empire. But it doesn't take them long to come around and decide to help the escapees instead, given that the Empire, not the prisoners, ruin their planet. Okay, they take Cassian and Melshi to Neamos. Cassian retrieves his weapons and credits from the hotel room, which clearly didn't have good room service. Not the best house cleaners in the galaxy there. And of potentially huge importance, we are shown Nemik's manifesto.
Tyranny required.
When Andor was imprisoned by that Sam Witwer cameo, I did wonder if and how that manifesto would come back into play. And it turns out the answer is very simple. Cassian's able to retrieve it. Melshi insists that the galaxy must be told about what's happening on Nakina 5, and that they have a better chance of getting the word out if they split up. So they do. But what I didn't say here is that just prior to Cassian and Melshi parting ways, Cassian calls home and finds out that his mother has died, setting Andor on a course for Ferrix. Speaking of Ferrix, the episode spends quite a bit of time there. When we first go to Ferrix this episode, it appears to be in the immediate aftermath of Marva's death. The focus is kept on B2 Remo as he grieves and attempts to process what has happened, which at this point in time he cannot. He doesn't want to be left alone. Meanwhile, we're reminded that other eyes are on Ferrix. Marva was being watched by both Imperial and Rebel spies, and these eyes are going to lead all the key players, except possibly Mon Mothma, back to Ferrix for the finale. Speaking of Mon Mothma, this episode takes us back to Coruscant. Vel is disturbed by what she sees. Leia has taken on some Chandrilan customs that Vel had thought were dead and buried. Mon Mothma is also not comfortable with what her daughter's doing. Mon confides in Vel just how desperate the money situation has become, and I can't wait to see how they wrap this arc up. Mon might not be likely to wind up on Ferrix, but Vel is definitely headed there, because she informs Claire that that's where she's going next. Vel has clearly had enough of Luthen's rules, so if she makes it out of next week, she's going to be a bit of a loose cannon going forward. Now this brings us to Luthen. We found out last week that Luthen had made the decision to sell Krieger out in order to protect Lonnie, and that puts him in a bit of a corner this week when Saw pulls an about-face and agrees to supply air support to Anton Krieger's raid. Luthen is forced to bring Saw into his trust on that decision, which was clearly not his first, second or third choice. Luthen is a slippery customer though. He throws two tubes under the bus, and he leaves Saw with a choice. Inform Krieger and risk Luthen's mole on the ISB, or let 30 people die. And then, on his way off the planet, Luthen runs into an Imperial patrol. And how good was this scene? The Fondor fires shrapnel at the Imperial capital ship, and then they're spinning.
I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
Before this encounter with the Imperials, Luthen had a conversation with Claire entirely in code, and it's fantastic. Luthen is going to Ferrix despite the crowded market, and it is going to be a very crowded market. Cyril also found out about Marva's death and is heading to Ferrix with the aim of, I don't know what. He's not law enforcement anymore. Is he going to turn Andor over to the Empire? Is he going to kill him? I have no idea at this point. I'm not even sure that he has any idea what he's doing. And then there's the Empire. Deidre is also heading to Ferrix. She told the regional governor to allow the funeral in order to box Andor and any other rebels who show up into a confined space. The Empire also still has no idea who Axis is. Bix looks like an absolute mess. And the Imperials are squeezing poor Bix for even more information. They show her a hologram of Anton Krieger and ask if he's the person that she introduced Andor to. And I think we're getting to the point where that's just about it. Almost everyone is converging on Ferrix for the finale. And while I have absolutely no idea how it's going to go down, it almost can't go down well. I mean, the Empire is in power for many years to come, and just ask Alderaan how they respond to traitorous planets. I think the people of Ferrix might get a temporary victory, but while the Death Star is still 5 years away, Tapoka City might give us an idea of what might happen to this part of Ferrix.
Sir, we're in position.
Open fire.
In short, other than Andor, I don't think too many people are getting out of this episode alive. On that note, why don't you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next week to talk about the finale. This is the Nerdy Dad, signing off.